Welcome to ShadowSleep Stories. If you're here to unwind, relax, or fall asleep, you're in the right place. Before we begin tonight's story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where are you watching from and what time is it for you. Now, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let's drift into the darkness together. Story 1, The Station's Last Train. Simon Tate was a night owl, always chasing stories for his true crime podcast. When a tip came about an abandoned train station in rural Ohio, linked to disappearances in the 1970s, he couldn't resist. The station, Coleridge Depot, was miles from anywhere. Its tracks rusted, its platform crumbling. Locals claimed a train still ran at midnight, though no schedule listed it, and those who boarded never returned. Simon, skeptical but intrigued, drove out with his recorder, eager for a chilling episode. He arrived at dusk, the station a skeleton of wood and brick, its windows boarded, the air thick with dust and damp. The platform was empty, the tracks swallowed by weeds, but a faded timetable hung in the ticket booth, listing a 12:01 a.m. train to nowhere. Simon laughed, recording his intro, mocking the ghost stories. As night fell, the air grew colder, the silence heavier. He heard a sound, faint, like a distant whistle, not wind but sharp, rhythmic. He checked his watch, 11:55 p.m. Just his imagination, he told himself, but the whistle grew, joined by a low rumble, like wheels on tracks. At midnight, a train appeared, its black cars gleaming under no moon, its engine silent yet moving. Simon's recorder hissed, capturing whispers, not his voice but others, saying, "Board, board now." The doors opened, revealing a dim interior, seats empty but stained, as if recently used. Simon stepped back, his skepticism wavering, but the platform seemed to tilt, urging him forward. He stayed put, recording until the train left, its whistle fading. His relief was short-lived. His recorder played back not his voice, but a chorus of whispers. "You missed us." The next night, Simon returned, unable to shake the train's image. He found a ticket on the platform, his name scrawled in red ink. No date, no destination. The whispers were louder, coming from the tracks, the booth, the air. He searched the station, finding old photos in a locked drawer, passengers with no faces, their eyes scratched out. One photo showed a man like him, holding a recorder, his face blurred. Simon's heart raced. He called his producer, Mia, but the line crackled, her voice drowned by whispers. "You're ours." At midnight, the train came again, its doors open, the whispers deafening. Simon ran, but the station's exits were gone. The walls closing in that sleep brought nightmares. Simon on the train, faceless passengers staring, their hands cold, pulling him into darkness. He woke to scratches on his arms, shaped like tracks, thin and red. The ticket was in his pocket, though he'd burned it. He researched Coleridge Depot, finding reports of a 1974 derailment, passengers lost, their bodies never found. Locals said the train was cursed, bound to a deal with something in the earth, claiming souls for passage. Simon stopped recording, but the whispers followed, in his car, his apartment, his dreams. His recordings were corrupted, every file filled with the same chant. "Board, board now." One night, Simon woke to the whistle, not in his dream, but outside his window. The ticket was on his pillow, his name darker, the ink wet. His reflection in the mirror was wrong, his face fading, his eyes hollow. He drove back to Coleridge Depot, the road pulling him like a tide. The station was waiting, the train already there, its doors wide. The whispers welcomed him, soft, promising rest. Simon stepped aboard, the doors closed, and the train vanished into the night. Story 2, The Carver's Mark. Evan Holt was a carpenter, a man of steady hands and quiet habits, hired to restore an old cabin in the Oregon woods. The client, a recluse named Mr. Vale, wanted the job done fast, no questions asked. Evan arrived at the cabin, a sagging structure buried in pines, its walls weathered, its windows dark. Vale was gone, leaving only a note. Fix the carvings, don't touch the door. Evan shrugged, assuming it was eccentric nonsense, and got to work. The cabin was cluttered with tools, wood shavings, and strange carvings, symbols etched into beams, tables, even the floor. Spirals, eyes, jagged lines. They seemed to shift when he wasn't looking. The front door was sealed, nailed shut, carved with a single word, stay. Evan ignored it, focusing on repairs, but the air was heavy, the forest too quiet. At night, he heard scratching, not from outside, but inside the walls, like something carving. He checked the cabin, finding nothing, but the symbols were different, deeper, as if freshly cut. Evan found a journal under a floorboard, its pages filled with Vale's scrawl. The carvings keep it out, it read. Don't stop working. Don't open the door. Evan scoffed, but the scratching grew, now from the sealed door. He worked faster, sanding, staining, but the symbols reappeared, bleeding through new wood. One night he woke to a shadow in the cabin, tall, faceless, its hands holding a chisel. It vanished when he blinked, but his tools were scattered, his hammer carved with the same symbols. The whispers started then, low, saying, "Stay your mark." Evan called Vale, but the number was dead. He searched online, finding stories of the cabin, built over a burial ground, its owners vanishing. Vale was the last, seen carving day and night, muttering about a presence that wanted in. Evan's arms itched, marked with scratches like symbols, appearing without cause. The journal's last page read, "The carver claims its own." He tried to leave, but the forest path looped back to the cabin, the door always in sight. The whispers were constant in his head, urging him to carve, to stay. Sleep brought visions. Evan carving endlessly, his hands not his own, the shadow guiding his chisel. He woke to new carvings on his skin, bloodless but deep. The door rattled, the word "stay" glowing red. He burned the journal, but it reappeared, open to his name. The shadow was closer now, in every corner, its chisel gleaming. Evan grabbed his tools, desperate to leave, but the door was open, the forest gone, only darkness beyond. The whispers sang, "You're ours." Evan stepped through, the door slamming shut. Story 3, The Guest in the Fog. Noah Blake was a drifter, hitchhiking through Scotland, chasing freedom after a life of mistakes. In the Highlands, a farmer offered him a night's stay at a guest house near Loch Morar, a gray stone building shrouded in fog. Noah accepted, grateful for a bed. The guest house was old, its walls damp, its rooms cold. The owner, a quiet man named Lachlan, warned him to lock his door at night. "It's the fog," he said. "It brings guests." Noah nodded, thinking it a local quirk, and settled into his room. The fog was thick, swallowing the law, the hills, the world outside. Noah heard whispers, faint, like voices in the mist, saying, "Come, come closer." He locked the door, blaming the wind, but the whispers grew, forming his name. He found a guest book on the nightstand, its entries odd. Stayed one night, saw the guest. Don't follow the fog. Noah laughed, but sleep was uneasy. In his dreams, a figure stood in the fog, tall, faceless, beckoning him to the lock. Morning brought no relief. The fog was denser, the guest house silent. Noah found scratches on his door, like fingers clawing, and a new guest book entry. Noah, stay. His handwriting, but not his words. He confronted Lachlan, who paled. "The guest chooses," he said. "It's been here since the lock was young." Noah packed to leave, but the fog pressed against the windows, the whispers louder. "You're ours." He found a photo in the guest book, an old man, his face blurred, standing by the lock. It looked like Lachlan, but older. Wrong. Noah researched the lock, finding tales of a presence in the fog, a thing that lured travelers, claiming them as guests. The guest house was its trap, its owners bound to serve it. Noah's arms were scratched, marks like ripples, appearing without cause. The fog thickened, seeping under doors, carrying whispers. He tried to leave, but the road vanished, the lock's edge everywhere. Sleep brought the figure closer, its hands cold. pulling him into the mist. At night, Noah woke to the door open, fog filling the room. The guest book was on his bed, his name written over and over. The whispers screamed, "Come, come now." His reflection in the window was faceless, smiling. Noah ran to the lock, the fog guiding him, the figure waiting. He stepped into the mist, and the lock was silent. Story 4. The Clockmaker's Debt. Jacob Finch was a man of precision, a clockmaker in a small New Hampshire town. His shop filled with ticking gears and polished pendulums. Business was slow, his debts mounting, until a stranger visited one snowy evening, offering a job. The man, pale and sharp-eyed, wanted a clock built, not for time, but for something else, something he wouldn't name. He left a leather pouch of gold coins and a blueprint. Its design strange, gears that didn't align, hands that moved backward, symbols etched in place of numbers. Jacob, desperate, agreed, ignoring the chill in his bones. He worked late, the blueprint's symbols, circles, crosses, jagged lines, making his eyes ache. The shop grew colder, the air heavy, as if the clocks were watching. At night he heard whispers, not from the street, but from the half-built clock, low and rhythmic, saying, "Pay, pay what's owed." Jacob checked the shop, finding nothing, but the coins from the stranger were gone, replaced by a single black gear, warm to the touch. He kept working, the clock taking shape, its ticking off like a heartbeat out of sync. His dreams were haunted, gears grinding, hands spinning backward, a shadow with no face holding a ledger. Pointing at him, Jacob found a note in the blueprint's folds. "The debt is yours. Don't stop the clock." He laughed it off, but the whispers grew now in daylight, chanting, "Pay, you're bound." His tools moved, left where he hadn't placed them, the symbols carved into his workbench overnight. He called the stranger's number, but it was dead, the line hissing with whispers. Jacob's hands shook, scratches appearing on his arms, matching the clock's symbols. He researched the shop's history, finding it built over an old debtor's prison. Its inmates vanished, their names etched in the town's records. The stranger's name was there, listed as dead in 1890. The clock was nearly done, its face gleaming, the symbols glowing faintly. Jacob couldn't stop, his hands moving as if guided. One night he woke to the clock ticking, though he hadn't wound it. The shadow stood in his shop, faceless, pointing at the clock. The whispers screamed, "Pay, pay now." Jacob tried to smash the clock, but his hammer bounced off, his hands bleeding. His reflection in the clock's glass was wrong. No face, just a void, smiling. He ran, but the shop's doors were locked, the windows black. The clock struck midnight, its chime a scream, and the shadow reached out, cold, pulling him toward the gears. Jacob vanished, the clock silent. Story 5. The Well's Promise. Micah Reed was a drifter, wandering the Texas plains, taking odd jobs to survive. In a drought-stricken town, he was hired to clean an old well on a ranch, its water long dry, its stones crumbling. The rancher, a wiry man named Holt, warned him to stay out after dark. "The well's got away," he said. "It makes promises." Micah, broke and skeptical, took the job, figuring it for superstition. He arrived at the ranch, the well a dark pit in a field of dead grass. Its mouth sealed with a rusted grate. Micah worked under the blazing sun, hauling debris, the well deeper than it looked, its walls etched with symbols, spirals, hands, eyes, worn but sharp. The air was heavy, smelling of damp earth and something sour. At dusk, he heard whispers, faint, rising from the well, saying, "Drink, drink deep." He checked the grate, finding it loose as if opened recently. He ignored the whispers, blaming heat stroke, but they followed him to the bunkhouse, louder at night, urging him to return. He found a locket in the dirt, its photo faded, a man's face scratched out. The next day, Micah found scratches on his shovel, matching the well's symbols. Holt's logbook, left in the bunkhouse, had entries. "Don't trust the water. It keeps what it takes." Micah scoffed, but the whispers grew, now forming his name. He called Holt, but the man didn't answer. The locket was on his pillow that night, though he'd buried it. His dreams showed him drinking from the well, the water black, hands pulling him down, faceless shapes watching. He woke to scratches on his chest, like the symbols. Bloodless but deep. Micah researched the ranch, finding stories of a well that never dried, even in drought, until people vanished. Workers, travelers, whole families. Locals said it was alive, offering water for a price. The whispers were constant, in the wind, the dust, chanting, "Drink, you're chosen." Micah tried to leave, but the roads looped back to the ranch, the well always in sight. One night, he woke to the grate open, the locket inside glowing faintly. The whispers roared, "Come, come now." His reflection in the bunkhouse mirror was faceless, his eyes gone. Micah climbed into the well, the water cold, pulling him under. The grate closed above him. Story 6, The Library's Keeper. Elliot Kane was a librarian, newly hired at a private archive in London. A stone building tucked in an alley, its shelves packed with rare books. The job was odd. Catalog late at night, alone, no visitors allowed. The owner, a gaunt man named Mr. Gray, warned him to lock the reading room door. "It's the books," he said. "They called us some." Elliot, a bookworm with bills to pay, took the job, dismissing the warning as eccentricity. The archive was a maze of shelves, the air thick with dust and leather. The reading room was sealed, its door heavy, carved with symbols, lines, circles, eyes that seemed to shift. At night, Elliot heard whispers, not from the streets but the shelves, saying, read us." He checked the books, finding nothing, but the whispers grew, forming words. His name. He found a ledger in a locked drawer, its entries cryptic. "Don't open the room, the keeper waits." Elliot laughed, but the whispers followed, louder in the dark. One night a book fell, open to a blank page, his name written in red ink. The symbols from the door were scratched into the cover, fresh as if just carved. Elliot's arms itched, marked with the same symbols, appearing without cause. He called Mr. Gray, but the line was static, whispers breaking through. "You're ours." He researched the archive, finding it built over a burned library. Its keepers gone mad, claiming books spoke, demanded readers. The reading room was their trap, sealed for a reason. Elliot's dreams showed him in the room, books open, pages bleeding, a faceless figure watching. He woke to scratches on his hands, like the symbols, the ledger open to his name. He tried to leave, but the archive's doors were locked, the windows black. The whispers chanted, read now. One night, the reading room door was open, the books glowing, the figure waiting. Elliot's reflection in a glass case was faceless, smiling. He stepped inside, the door shutting, the whispers silent. Story 7, The Painter's Canvas. Miles Carter was a struggling artist, his paintings unsold, his rent overdue. When a gallery in upstate New York offered him a residency at a secluded estate, he jumped at the chance. The estate was old, its walls stained, its air heavy with dust. The owner, a reclusive collector named Mr. Harrow, gave one rule: paint in the attic studio, but don't touch the covered canvas in the corner. Miles, desperate for inspiration, agreed, setting up his easel in the attic, where the light was dim in the air-cold. He painted day and night, but the covered canvas drew his eye, its shape wrong, too tall, too thin. At night he heard whispers, faint like brushes on cloth, saying, paint us." He checked the attic, finding nothing, but the whispers grew, forming his name. He found a sketchbook under the floorboards, its pages filled with Harrow's notes. "The canvas sees, don't uncover it." Miles laughed, but his paintings changed, showing shadows he hadn't drawn, faceless figures in the backgrounds. His hands moved on their own, adding red streaks like blood. One night, the canvas was uncovered, its surface black, rippling like water. Miles's reflection was there, but wrong. His face blurred, his eyes gone. The whispers chanted, "Paint, you're ours." He tried to leave, but the attic door was locked. the windows black. Scratches appeared on his arms, shaped like the sketchbook symbols, lines, eyes, hands. He called Harrow, but the line hissed with whispers. The estate's history spoke of artists vanishing, their paintings left behind, always with faceless figures. Miles's latest painting showed him, his face erased, a shadow looming dot. The whispers were constant in his head, his dreams. He burned the sketchbook, but it reappeared, open to his name. One night he woke to the canvas glowing, the shadow stepping out, faceless, holding a brush. Miles tried to run, but his hands painted, the canvas pulling him in. The attic went silent. Story 8, The Hiker's Path. Owen Holt was a hiker, chasing solitude in the Montana wilderness. A ranger tipped him off about a hidden trail in the Bitterroot Mountains, unmarked, rarely used. Owen found the trailhead, a narrow path through dense pines, its air colder than it should be. He hiked deep, the forest quiet, too quiet, until he heard whispers, low, like leaves rustling, saying, "Follow, follow us." He checked his map, but it was blank, his compass spinning. He laughed it off, blaming exhaustion, but the whispers grew, calling his name, dot at dusk. Owen found a stone marker, carved with symbols, circles, slashes, eyes, half buried in dirt. A journal was nearby, its pages brittle, written by a hiker named Cole. The path chooses. Don't stray. Owen's stomach churned. The whispers were louder, coming from the trees, the ground. He tried to turn back, but the path looped, always leading to the marker. Scratches appeared on his hands, matching the symbols, bloodless but deep. His dreams showed a figure, tall, faceless, beckoning him deeper. Owen called the ranger station, but the radio hissed, "You're ours." He found stories online, a trail that moved, hikers lost, their gear found with symbols carved into it. The whispers chanted, "Follow, follow now." One night he woke to the marker beside his tent, his name carved into it. His reflection in his knife was faceless, smiling. Owen walked deeper, the path pulling him, the figure waiting. The forest swallowed him. Story 9, The Tenant's Room. Lucas Gray was a student, broke and desperate, renting a cheap room in a Chicago boarding house. The house was old, its walls thin, its landlord, Mr. Vane, odd, warning Lucas to keep his room's wardrobe locked. "Something about the last tenant," he said. "It lingers." Lucas, needing a place, ignored the warning, moving into the cramped room, its air heavy, its mirror cloudy dot. At night he heard whispers, not from neighbors but the wardrobe saying, "Open, open it." He checked it, finding scratches inside, symbols, spirals, hands, lines, like claw marks. A notebook was taped to the wardrobe's back, Vane's writing, "The room keeps its guests. Don't open the door." Lucas scoffed, but the whispers grew, saying his name. Scratches appeared on his arms, matching the symbols. He called Vane, but the line crackled, whispers breaking through. "You're ours." Lucas found articles about the house. Tenants vanished, their belongings left behind, always with symbols. His dreams showed the wardrobe open, a faceless figure inside, reaching out. He woke to the wardrobe ajar, the mirror showing no reflection. The whispers screamed, "Open, open now." Lucas tried to leave, but the house's doors were locked, the windows sealed. One night the wardrobe was wide open, the figure waiting. Lucas stepped inside and the door shut. Story 10, The Clock Tower's Shadow. Elliot Vaughn was a historian, drawn to the forgotten corners of New England, his notebooks filled with tales of lost towns. When he heard of a clock tower in a decayed Massachusetts village, abandoned since a fire in 1892, he set out to document it. The village, Ashenfield, was a husk, crumbling homes, overgrown streets, and the clock tower, its blackened spire piercing the sky. Locals avoided it, whispering of a shadow that moved in its gears, claiming those who lingered. Elliot, skeptical but curious, arrived with his camera and recorder, ready to unravel its history. The clock tower loomed over Ashenfield, its face frozen at 3:33, its gears rusted but intact. The air was heavy, smelling of ash and iron, the silence broken by faint ticks, like a heartbeat. Elliot explored the tower, finding symbols carved into the walls, spirals, eyes, jagged lines that seemed to shift in the dim light. As night fell, he heard whispers, not from the wind but the gears, low and rhythmic, saying, "Wait, wait for us." He checked the tower, finding nothing, but the whispers grew, forming his name. He found a logbook in the keeper's room, its pages brittle, warning the shadow counts. Don't climb the tower. Elliot's photos showed anomalies, blurs in the corners, tall and faceless, watching. His recorder caught not his voice, but whispers, chanting, "You're marked." He laughed it off, blaming old equipment, but the ticks grew louder, the symbols appearing on his notebook, scratched in red ink. Scratches marked his arms, matching the carvings, bloodless but deep. He called a colleague, Sarah, but the line hissed, "You're ours." Ashenfield's history told of a fire sparked by a clockmaker, his deal with a shadow binding the town to time. Keepers vanished, their faces erased in photos, the clock always at 3. 3-3. Elliot worked through the nights, documenting the tower, unable to leave. The whispers were constant, urging him to climb. He found a photo in the logbook, an old keeper, his face gone, standing by the gears. His dreams showed him, trapped in the clock, gears grinding, a faceless shadow pointing. He woke to scratches on his chest, the logbook open to his name. The tower's door locked itself, the windows dark. One night the ticks stopped, the whispers screaming, "Wait, wait, now." His reflection in the clock's glass was faceless, smiling. Elliot climbed the spire, the shadow waiting. The gears turned and Ashenfield was silent.